All right, welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danny.
And we're here for another great episode. Hope you've been enjoying the conversations that we've been talking about. We love your interaction, the feedback that you've been giving, all the comments in the chats. We're giving you what you've been asking for. And today we have an interesting topic, but before we get into that, listen, we want to take a few minutes to let you know.
Listen, guys, please like, share, and subscribe this channel. We want to make sure that everyone knows about Couples Academy, our live podcast. We come on here every day. We're going to be giving you all the information that you need to have a thriving marriage, to support your relationship. So we want to spread the message. Listen, this topic is so interesting. Like, there's been a lot of buzz going around talking about this weaponized incompetence. And so Hassani and I started to look into it. And, you know, there's a lot of validity to it. And so today we really want to break it down. But we also want to remind you, we have a lot of really amazing things coming up here at Couples Academy. Hassani, if you want to just share. Number one, we have our Last Chance Weekend. Talk about it, Hassani.
Last Chance Weekend, June the 13th through the 15th. Listen, at the end of the day, there are many of you who are in crisis. We get phone calls all the time. Matter of fact, I just got an emergency text this morning about a situation. And listen, this is not something that you can do on your own. This is not something that can always be solved in a session or in a weekly type of session process. Sometimes you need to take a deeper dive. And that's what the Last Chance Weekend is for, where couples from around the country and around the world fly in to spend 3 days with us. And we guide them through a very comprehensive process where we focus on their marital recovery, their individual recovery, and the affair recovery. If you want to restore the relationship, if you want to see if there's a possibility of it, you need to register today. So the link is in the description. Please go ahead and do that. But of course,
we got the Phoenix Awards Gala coming up, guys. It's happening at Heart Life Marriage Getaway 2025. And we are so excited to be partnering with Wes and Nisha Stringfellow, who do a phenomenal job. Put that slide back up, babe. Who do a phenomenal job of doing retreats. They always have. They put us out of the retreat business so much to the fact that we show up every year and we bring people with us. So I want you to go to the phoenixawardsgala.org, phoenixawardsgala.org, register, get your tickets. You can get your room there, and you can also nominate a fantastic, phenomenal couple. Yes. Make sure you do that. There are couples out here that have been through the fire, and you want them to be acknowledged and nominated. So make sure you get that done.
Some people get Grammys for great music. Some people get Oscars for great acting, Emmys as well. But to get an award for having a phenomenal marriage because you've been through some hell, you've overcome it, and like the phoenix, you've risen from the ashes,
right through the fire,
and you have
to
a
the limit,
story
to the wall,
and a testimony to talk about it, and to receive a reward amongst your peers. That's an amazing accomplishment.
It is amazing, and it's about time that somebody gets that done. Thank you, and we were the ones that did it. So listen, we're excited about today's show, guys. We're going to be talking about this word. Listen, weaponizing your incompetence, and it's interesting. We're going to be breaking this down into a 4-part series, so I don't want you to miss it. Today, we're going to be breaking into domestic and home and family. Next week, we're going to be talking about sexual intimacy and connection when it comes to this weaponized incompetency. Then we're going to talk about finances, and then we're going to talk about spirituality. But today, we want to start with talking about how it shows up domestically. So first, let us show you. Sit back. I want you to watch this little short clip that really breaks down what this weaponized incompetence is all about. And play.
Yeah. So give me 1 second.
And play.
All right, here we go.
Babe, how do I turn on the machine? Babe, what setting is it supposed to be on? Babe, it's not working. Again, the worst ones will do this so that you get frustrated and do the task for them.
I'm so bad at this. Could you help me? I guess that's why you do the cooking. What? You know I'm not an A-type personality.
If these examples sound familiar, then you might be confronted with weaponized incompetence, a situation in which someone says they do not know how to do something in order to get out of a task. This might manifest itself in friendships, at work, but is especially discussed in the context of romantic relationships.
Weaponized incompetence means when a partner pretends like they don't know how to do something, or they ask for extra help, or they're calling you all the time from the grocery store. They can't complete a task without help.
It's purposely completing a task terribly. So terribly, in fact, that you just never ask them to do the task again. Like those videos that you'll see where you can tell when dad dresses the daughters or the sons, clothing that makes absolutely no sense. They're not washed, their faces aren't clean, their hair's not brushed.
The term weaponized incompetence or strategic incompetence isn't new, but recently it's being discussed more and more on TikTok, where people have been sharing their experiences.
When it's your birthday, do you have to remind him 5, 6 times that your birthday's coming up and then put it on the calendar and then email him stuff you want? And then he still f***s it up? Stop doing that they're not doing for you. Match their energy. Take a 45-minute
On this app, we talk a lot about weaponized incompetence in men, but one thing that we don't talk about is weaponized ignorance. And it's when you know you don't know, but you put no effort into learning. So literally, I want to say this to every guy who's preparing to get a gift or an experience for a woman that they care about. If you give her a gift that she has to then do work to actually fully enjoy, you did not give her a gift. You gave her a task.
Yes, a lot of men do weaponize their incompetence. A lot of men are also just actually incompetent. A lot of men never had to accrue knowledge and learn how to navigate society because there was always a woman to do it for them.
While people may engage in this behavior consciously or not, it is not just forgetting about something or not being able to complete a task.
Here's the difference between weaponized incompetence and just not knowing how to do stuff.
Ugh, you're so much better at cooking and cleaning than me. Why don't you just do it?
Can you help me change this tire? I have never had to do this in my life.
That makes total sense because I can't either. Let's call a mechanic.
Because some of us are neurodivergent or depressed or chronically ill or disabled, any number of things that makes it harder for us to go about our daily lives in a way that is viewed as competent. Nobody's trying to use these things as excuses. There's a difference between excuses and explanations. So yes, we gotta call out men and society for these patterns and this behavior of weaponized incompetence, but we have to be careful in the way that we're doing it because it can get really harmful and very ableist very quickly.
Many are discussing how weaponized incompetence manifests itself in the context of division of labor at home, with many mothers working what they call a double shift. One shift at work during the day and another shift in the evening at home, caring for children and the household. A 2021 poll by McKinsey found that during the pandemic, mothers were 3 times as likely as fathers to be the ones responsible for most of the housework and caregiving.
And if you don't think you know how to do this, if you're not capable of understanding that dishes need to be done, or that the laundry needs to be put away, or that the floor needs to be swept, then you are a moron, okay? And you are an immature little infantile baby.
A partnership means delegating the tasks so that one person is completing it, full responsibility from the beginning to the end. The issue of weaponized incompetence isn't just being bad at something and asking for help. It is a tool of oppression. When you don't put in the effort to learn how to do something successfully in the house, you are assuming that your partner is going to do it. You are forcing them to take their time to complete that task for you. When it is a domestic task, it has to be done for the health and safety of your family. Unpaid time is just as finite as paid time.
Wow.
I mean, boom.
Wow.
Boom and mic drop on all of that. What are your? I mean, there was a lot. They were coming at the men hardcore.
I'm just saying, I'm watching this in real time, folks. I'm watching this in real time. Like, we've talked about it, we've known about it, we've been teaching on this, but this video I'm watching in real time. But a couple ones that really stood out, the comments that stood out, was when the guy obviously spoke, because see, here's the reality: men can be hard and have a direct, strong message, and men are able to receive it. Like, we get it. It resonates. So when he called us babies and we're just idiots because there's certain things.
He said moron.
He said moron. There's certain things that we don't do or fake doing. There's a lot of truth to that. Because,
really?
Of course there is.
Come on with it.
We could talk about it. But then the woman spoke of an abuse. She spoke of some type of an abuse that takes place when you do that, because you're forcing your spouse to do what you refuse to do. Now, let me just tell you, if you have not noticed, 70+% of all divorces are initiated by women. And this is a major concern. A major concern, because men oftentimes get the benefits of marriage, but wives get the burden of marriage, the burden of it. And what happens is when they have this burden and all of these responsibilities that fall on their plate, it creates resentment and bitterness and frustration and disconnect. And there is a phenomenal book. If you've never read it, I want you to get this book. It's called The Superior Wife Syndrome. And it talks about how men are incompetent or fake incompetence. And it puts all of this burden on the women, and they get frustrated. They're ready to throw in the towel, call it quits, and give up because they just can't take it anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're at an Airbnb and somebody just came, knocked on the door. So I missed that last part. But did you break down this incompetence, like what it actually is?
I didn't break it down.
Okay.
I just referenced the book that really unpacks it.
Yeah.
The Superior Wife Syndrome.
Oh, and there's so many other books that unpack it, that talk this through, because the reality is it's actually somebody who's just pretending that they don't know how to do something so that they know that if they pretend long enough, somebody's going to pick up the slack. And even though this is coming from the perspective from that video of wives, really, right? And there was a couple of guys in there, but all of it was kind of berating the man a bit, right?
Pretty much.
The reality is that this can be learned behavior. Like this can be something that you've learned from a childhood. If you grew up in a household where, you had a big sister or a big brother, and, the younger siblings always looked up to the big brother to get something done. And so if the house needed to be clean before the parents got home and you dragged your feet long enough, the older sibling does not want to get in trouble because they're always held responsible for everything. They're going to just get annoyed and do it for you. They're going to make sure it's right. So this can be learned behavior. You could be married to somebody that learned over time that this is a way to get out of responsibility. This is how I can get somebody to take care of things for me because this is what has always worked. And so you see this show up a lot because we're talking about domestic, right? And so in the home, you see this show up a lot with women having to pick up the slack because of societal norms. Like, it has been, kind of ingrained in our belief system that the women are supposed to be the more domestic. But even though there's some truth to that, we're still also out here working too. So it's like, you can't have it both ways. If traditionally we're supposed to be domestics and be taking care of everything at the home, but we also have to go out here and make a check, there's got to be a balance domestically as well. Yeah. And so you find that a lot of women are frustrated, right? Because, things like cleaning the kitchen. I know I have talked about this a lot of times. We all know that a wife is going to go behind a husband cleaning the kitchen because of the detail. I don't know if that is intentional, right? Or what it is, but it is a common thing that you'll hear wives say, like, whatever it is, I got to go behind them to get it done 100% right because it's going to be left a mess. It's going to be left not fully complete or not done right. Is that intentional behavior? Because you're saying that some of that is intentional, or what is that?
I don't know. But first of all, I just want to say none of these are absolutes. This is a general rule. Yeah. There are always exceptions to the rule because there are men who are competent and do all these things. But in regards to that, I think that it is just proven, and it is just a fact that women they're more detailed. They get more into the granular things, where when it comes to certain things like domestic support, men may take a more superficial type of approach to it and just get the basics done. And I think that there is a level of competence, obviously, that women have that men don't have when it comes to the domestic affairs, because it's the way that we've been trained, raised, and associated and acculturated in the society. We have to realize that marriage and family has changed over the decades. And so here we are in modern times, but many of us are still holding on to traditional, conventional ways. And so when we look at things from a traditional, conventional sense, women were the ones that took care of the management of the home. Men were the ones who were outside of the home, putting in the hard work and labor in order to support the family. Yeah. But to your point, because the entire world has changed and women are now entering into the workforce and now they're excelling academically and they're bringing in money, there has been not a good transition because they're taking on a different role, but men have struggled to take on a role that women formerly took on. And so I think there needs to be a re-education of how we do marriage and family. And it also speaks to gender issues as well.
Talk to me about that.
Because think about it. If we believe that the role of a man is to bring in the money, right? And the role of a woman is to be the nurturer and the carer of the children and all things concerning the home, then there is this deeply embedded belief system and a philosophy that keeps me from showing up in a competent way in the home.
Like, how long can we, and I wonder if listen, I need comments on this, because we're going to be talking about this for a couple of weeks now. We're just talking about on the domestic side of this, but how long can we hang on to that narrative? I feel like that narrative is so antiquated and just doesn't work and doesn't even make sense and just isn't even valid anymore. Like we're talking about traditional roles. There's no Stepford wives. I mean, there are some that are, you're married to a billionaire and all you do is shop and spend their money, right? And that goes both ways too. That's not even gender specific. If you got a sugar mama or a sugar daddy, whatever. But in the real world, husbands and wives are working. Husbands and wives are making it happen. You can't really be in this society and just be in a one income home and be thriving. It's hard with two incomes. And so I just don't know how long we can hold on to this narrative that traditionally the wife is the homemaker and this and that and the third. Okay, but the tradition is falling away because society does not create space for a wife to truly be at home and just focused on the kids, and you also thrive and have all the things and do all the things. Everybody is competing to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, right? If we want to go back to traditional values, we're going to have to downgrade our living. We're going to have to turn off the television so that we can actually feel some sense of, happiness and not be comparing all the time. We're going to have to live on less so that a wife can focus on the home and the family, and the husband can go out and make the money and come home, get his newspaper. That mess is so old.
It may be old
and not happening.
It may be old and antiquated for some, but the reality is, unless there's a re-education, then many people are going to still have that same philosophy. And real talk, think about it. Just like a child's formable years are 1 to 5. That's when it shapes who that child becomes. And then, whatever they saw growing up in the home that made a stamp on them in terms of who they are. Likewise, I mean, the fact that you have a job and you make money and you bring money into the household doesn't keep me. I can't rob myself of my history, because maybe in my household, my mom didn't have a job. Maybe she was the one who took care of the kids, made cookies and brownies on the weekend, cleaned up. That was her role and function. And so I'm looking for someone who fulfills the role that I saw in my household. And yes, you have a job, but your primary responsibility is to show up the way my mother showed up in my household. So once again, it's what you're used to. It's what you've been raised in. It's what you've been trained in. It's deeply embedded in your psychology and philosophy in terms of what roles should be. And unless somebody's talking about it, and I'm not talking about debates, because there's all types of wars or battles of the sexes where they go back and forth about gender issues, but there's no re-education that's being done to talk about how to adjust and how to adapt to today's societal norms.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and there's truth to that. I mean, I think obviously because this is a struggle, right? I mean, you heard that video, and you're hearing wives talk about this, and you're also hearing some men talk about this as well, that there are some people still struggling to try to play gender roles.
Right.
Right. But it is a struggle, and it is a major, major tax on women. It is a major tax. And the more that I engage with women and talk to wives in particular, this is something that is causing wives to feel like, I could do better by myself, because this is not even taking into account marital issues, right? There are marital issues that weigh on top of something like this. This is just one specific thing. But when you have marital issues, right, and conflict going on, plus you're dealing with somebody who is operating with this incompetent or all these incompetencies, it becomes frustrating, and it starts to wear the wife down, where she just wants to tap out. It's like, I'm out, tapping out. Like, I can't take anymore. I literally am going to die if I don't get myself out of this situation, because I cannot really do it all. And listen, I'm sure there's a lot of women out there, maybe, I don't know, some traditional women that would be like, raise my hand, like if I could sign up for just being at home and taking care of my family and not having to worry about the finances. See, that's the thing. I know wives that are doing that. They have decided, I'm going to be a homestead wife. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to be home, take care of the home. I'm going to homeschool my kids. I know I hear all of that. But then they're worried about money. Right? It's a sacrifice, right? They don't have all that they need. They're worried about next month's bills, things like that. And so it forces them to have the wife step outside the home. So when she steps out the home, there's never a recalibration of responsibilities, right? It's not like, okay, well, you're stepping out the home now and you're working. So let's balance this out. Let's split these domestic tasks down the middle now, because you're not doing just the domestic. Now you're actually going out and earning income. So I kind of just feel like circumstances need to be the training tool that causes couples to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to adjust to make sure that I don't wear my good thing down? Because, you know, it is the assignment of the wife to help, right? But helping does not mean doing it all.
Yeah.
Helping means let me help you because you're leading. Anybody in an executive position has help. You have people who are underneath you that support you and they have roles and tasks, but it's the leader that takes on the lion's share of things. And so it's really upside down in that way, and it's wearing a lot of women down.
Well, we say all the time that people come to Couples Academy because in many respects they're guilty of doing marriage wrong, and you want to figure out how to do it right. As it relates to domestic affairs, there's no one template. There are a number of templates, and you have to figure out which one serves you, the collective you best. And so one of the principles that we always talk about is this: hey, if it works for you and doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for the marriage.
Right.
If it works for me and not for you, it doesn't work for the marriage. So what is the collective us, or the we-ness, or the we factor that we can have as it relates to domestic support? Because I think it requires, to your point, becoming highly adaptable.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe there was a season where I was the provider and my income took care of everything. But then society changed. Like, real talk, Danielle, right now in society, it is difficult to maintain a lifestyle with the cost of rent and mortgages going up, with even people's incomes going up. It's not matching the amount of money they have to spend on food and all the other expenses. So even with more income, they still can't afford to do life. And so it requires adaptability. So to your point, women have to get out there. They need to work. They need to contribute. But it also requires that a man take on some responsibility inside the home.
And that's all I'm saying. And I think that's really what would be one of the cures, because this is such a bane of existence for so many wives that we need to figure out a way to cure this, right? Like, this is something that causes divide. This is something that causes resentment and disconnection. This is something that causes women to go into their own corner and drag and dog their husbands out, because it's like, I know, right? He's like, exactly. And the thing is, it's not really, like, a lot of times it's not really incompetence. You know, we're calling this weaponized incompetence because this is a term that's out here now. It's just like, you're weaponizing that you won't do it. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't. It's not that you're incapable. It's that you have not had a conversation on how to make these things happen. And there are some cases, and in that book that you mentioned is a key factor in that, where husbands intentionally do things terribly. You know, the age-old example of a husband not wanting to change a dirty diaper, right? And just doing it wrong, taping it on all sideways, poop sliding down the leg, making more work for me later. Forget it. I'll just do it myself, right? And so this is something that husbands and wives need to sit down and embrace this as a real marital issue and do what is necessary to bring about the resolve. And listen, there will never be, to me, an equality when it comes to domesticated behavior between men and women.
I don't know.
We're always going to be superior, in my opinion, because, well, listen,
No, I don't know
you
that.
can't
That's
always
an
say
absolute.
that is an absolute. But let me finish my point. In most cases, we are going to be superior because God made us that way. He made us multitaskers. He made us able to have a baby on our breast and on our hip, vacuum the floor, talking on the phone, cooking something on the stove, got a load in the laundry, something in the oven. Nothing is going to fall apart. He really didn't make men like that. So in that regard, there is just an ability that a husband can take on some task and help her with things if he's willing to, so that there's more of a balance and take some weight off her shoulder. And then we're going to go to comments.
If it's true that women are more multitasking-ish and could do all of that, baby on the hip, cooking, phone call, all of that, then why
is that not true?
Wait a minute. Then why y'all complaining about it?
Because
wait a minute. Let me finish my point. Why are you complaining about it? If you were created and designed by God to function in this way, then it is an asset. It is a blessing to the relationship. You do all these things, yet you complain about doing them.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes frustrating for a man, because they're like, well, wait a minute. That's what you so when we hear things like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Many times people hear that and think it's coming from a chauvinistic perspective, but your statement reinforces that that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. And that's true. That's how we're wired. But we're also being asked to go out and be the provider, which is what you're supposed to do. And so let's bring balance to it, right? It's not that a woman doesn't want to do these things. She is wired to do these things. It's in her nature to do these things. It comes easy for her to do these things. But we are also human. We're also operating in the same 24 hours. We also need to sleep. We also need to eat. We also need self-care. We also need mental health care. We also need connection. We also need a break. And when everything is our responsibility, when the home is our responsibility, the children is our responsibility, going out and making the paper is our responsibility, dealing with the environment of work. You got a boss, you've got employees. All of this is weighing on her, and she has no break. She's about to break down. So can we go to comments, because they're talking.
We'll get there. I just want to make it clear, everything you just said is absolutely correct. And this is why when you think about the word husband, it is an acronym. Each letter represents something different. The S in husband represents support. And our wives do need a considerable amount of support as it relates to how we show up or what's needed in the household. So yes, there's a lot of comments. You want to read them? You want to read them?
Because people just are talking.
Just click on it as you're reading it.
I will click on it. Okay, so here we got Dolores. She's saying, why do you have to tell a grown man how to do something that they should know how to do? I'm not replacing your mother. Ooh. See, you want to comment on that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
We can comment on. First of all, I think that every man should have a level of knowledge and skill domestically, okay? Because he didn't get married to a woman who is by force supposed to do everything. There should be certain things that he contributes to the household. And I think it's worthy of a conversation that you need to have. And I think that just like you go to school to learn a skill or to get a trade or to get education, there's no school for husbands and school for wives. For many people, it's how you were raised in your home. So some men are phenomenal cooks. Some men can repair. Some men could do a whole lot. So when they come into a marriage, there's a level of self-sufficiency. Some men were raised in environments where the girls did everything.
True that.
The boys played outside.
Yeah.
So there is a lack of competence in certain areas.
For sure.
And that's contributed to it.
Let's go to this comment. Derek is saying, not truth at all. Just because you have a good wife, you see it that way. He goes on to say, most men are crying about women they married as they get all the same benefits outside of marriage, but once married, the devil is in the details. He goes on to say, if so many men benefit from marriage, then why are men declining to get married? They should be lining up for it. Okay, that's a good point. What are your comments on that?
I think there's a lot of truth to it, and that can't be denied. And I think we need to go. I think what you need to be is more specific, because it's a broad statement and there's truth in that statement. But get into the details as you just
and
did.
I don't think that
so
you
that
addressed.
We can unpack that.
Yeah, I don't think you really specifically address what we're talking about. I think there's truth to what you're saying, but you're not talking about this specific issue where you're in a marriage, and I mean, we're not even talking about other issues, but you have a one-sided relationship where a lot of the responsibilities are leaning one side domestically. Again, there are so many different types of weaponized incompetencies. We're going to get to that, but we're just specifically talking about in the domestic space. There's definitely a huge lean towards women being responsible for more things and having to go out in the world and bring in income. That's just a reality.
And the reason why we know this is because when we walk couples through emotional needs in a relationship, like hands down, overwhelmingly, in the top 5 needs of every woman is domestic support. And domestic support is an emotional need. You say, well, how is cooking and cleaning and repairing things around the house an emotional need? Because when they don't get done, it impacts her emotions. When it does get done, she feels like she has the support. She feels like she has the care. She has the attention, the love of her spouse. So it does hit one emotionally. And many men, unfortunately, are incompetent or choose to tap out in that space because they've given responsibility into other areas that they've prioritized.
Let's see what Erica has to say. She says some men believe because they bring in the money, they don't have to help with household chores such as cooking, cleaning, doing laundry. And I mean, that's real, but it's definitely one-sided because it's not true for us. Like we don't get to come home and be like, hey, I just worked a long day. Let me kick my feet up, rub my feet and give me a newspaper. That is unheard of. And we don't get to do that.
I think what you're saying is true. And it speaks to the point that was made in the video about how women, and we've said this for years, women have 2 shifts. They work from 9 to 5. They come home and they enter into their second shift from 5 to 9, where most men work 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are. They come home and guess what? I need time to relax. I had a long day at work. I just need to veg out. I need to watch some sports, ESPN, something like that. And then I can engage.
Yeah. Let's see what I love what CD says. She says, we cannot expect wives to stay home like June Cleaver if men aren't going to take on full responsibilities of the financial duties. You cannot have it both ways without compromise and re-education. Facts and mic drop. Re-education. And here's the thing, you know, like these are conversations that you need to have personally in your home with your partner, because everybody is on some sliding scale. Like Asani was saying, you know, there are some more domesticated men that just know how to do things, right? And then there are some that are less, right? But that doesn't mean that there's still not a huge lean on your side to take care of responsibilities. So you need to get into the weeds of what's going on under your roof and make sure that these conversations are had, because I mean, I'm hearing more and more women being like, I'm tapping out. Like I've done my time, you know, I've raised my kids. And this is the thing. This is why you're having so many divorces later on. People are blindsided. They're like, what? You've been married 40 years. Like what? Like my kids are grown. I've raised my children and my husband. I did a good job and I'm tapping out. My turn. And we don't want that. Like after all that time, you're supposed to be rocking on chairs and going into the sunset. You're supposed to be Mima and Pop or whatever. And you're ready to go and start your life because your whole life has been robbed from you because you've been forced to be a domestic and you've been forced to be a financial provider.
So let's pause and let's slow down for a second, because I said it was just said about this whole re-education. And I'm saying the way that you've been raised and trained in the home is the strongest education that you could ever receive, right? So if the whole Stepford wife and the roles of a wife, you know, with the apron and the heels and doing all the domesticated things in the home, that goes all the way back to the 50s, right? So that's grandma and grandpa. Now, our parents were raised in that tradition. It was passed down. Our parents become adults. They have children. And that same mindset and behavior is taught to us, right? Mm-hmm. So even though societal things are changing outside of the home, we have a strong family culture that's been handed down to us from generation to generation and generation. And so it's a clash of cultures. It just is. Daniel, it's a fact. It's a historical
is a fact, but
that's what it is. It's creating problems.
Yeah, it's a fact that that's what it's always been. I just don't think that we can continue to use that as an excuse. I think that it's too far gone. Slavery is also a fact. You know what I'm saying? We all came from slavery, but we're not trying to be, well, slave was a thing, so let's go, massa. Like, no, we have to move on. We have to recognize where we are today, and as society has changed, we're not able to just be one income households anymore. Facts. You know, and listen, if you want it both ways, then if you want your wife to be a domestic, right, then you're going to have to be able to provide so that she can fully be that, so that she can re-energize. Everybody needs to re-energize. Back in the day with Stepford talking, you know, when your husband comes into the house, don't talk to him. You know, just give him a moment. That's what we would be taught. Just give him a moment. Let him be quiet. He's been talking all day. Kick up his feet. Get him a newspaper. That mess is not a thing anymore. I just got home at the same time as you. We're bumping shoulders, busting in the door. We're both like, what are we eating? What are the kids eating? Who's picking up the kids? Where are the kids? Like, life has changed. We cannot keep going back to making excuses about what was traditionally done that is no longer traditionally done done. It's not the Cosbys. It's not Archie Bunker. It's not none of that anymore. It's this today. And we need to do something so that wives stop feeling like they have to choose their lives over their husbands, their marriage, their relationships. And that's what's happening. And there's a comment here that I got to go to from Erica. It says, it wouldn't be so bad if the husband appreciated the woman that can do all of that and gave her a break as well. Facts. And we've talked about this in shows in the past about the need for appreciation, acknowledgement. Our wives need that acknowledgement and appreciation. And I think a lot of times, and maybe not intentionally, husbands might take it for granted because she's just good at all these things, right? They take it for granted and they don't know she's really struggling. She actually needs a break. You know, something that she does every day, maybe putting food on the table that just tastes great, right? After a while, it gets old. There's no acknowledgement. Or when you come home and things are just where they're supposed to be. Or something as simple as every time you say, where are my socks? Where's my wallet? Where's my this? Where's my that? She actually knows. Like, these are the things that need acknowledgement and appreciation because God wired her to be that way. So see that for what it is. Over appreciate, man. You doing all this here and you going out and bringing home the bacon, man. You are amazing, wife. Acknowledgement goes a long, long way. Facts, Erica. Thank you for that comment. Hassani has no words.
Oh, I have words.
Okay,
you're just on a roll. So,
I am on a go on. I want to hear.
No, the reality is, at the end of the day, I hope nobody's hearing me give men excuses. What we're doing is helping you to understand the why and where it comes from, because you can't solve a problem unless you first know the root of the problem. So we've got to acknowledge where it come from, why it is, and now we got to do something about it. Because at the end of the day, if you look at the divorce statistics, women are tapping out. They don't want to do it anymore. This is why so many women don't get remarried, because they look at marriage as a job, a responsibility.
That's true.
And so if I'm going to be responsible for having to take care of yet another man,
that Hassani,
and all his other things,
yeah.
You see? And so this is why we created the Irreplaceable Husbands program, to teach husbands what being a husband is all about.
Facts.
And you have to be undeniable in multiple areas in order to become irreplaceable. So if women are divorcing men, that means that men are replaceable. So how do you become irreplaceable? By being undeniable in many areas. And one of those areas is domestic support.
Okay. And I want to go to, I like to hear from the men on this too. So this is the second guy I'm seeing. And it says, Greg is saying, why do you tell us how to do things we know how to do even when you don't? Okay. His second comment is, I think your view of tradition is filtered through the lenses of the entertainment industry with a strong bias. I wish you would explain more of that. I'm interested in hearing your perspective and what you're saying. I'm not getting it. What do you? I
don't know what he.
Yeah, I don't know. When you say the traditional view is filtered through the entertainment industry with a strong bias, I mean, your view coming from old school tradition, there's definitely nothing commercial about that, because that ain't even happening. I mean, and then I don't know. Come back with another comment. I'm interested in hearing what it is you have to say. I see a comment from Brandon. He says, as a husband that works 50 to 60 hours a week, I do dishes, trash, among other things. Why does it seem like it's a huge deal if something is forgotten, if it's usually done 99% of the time?
Now that
very valid point.
And that's a great point, right? Because a lot of times women are looking through the lens of perfection instead of consistency. And we get beat down. We get, we do.
Your turn, go, babe.
Beat up, torn down, right? Verbally assassinated by our wives because we're not perfect. Now, if you but a lot of times, Danielle, women are looking through this lens of perfection, or it's perceived that way because for all the things that we do those 50 plus hours a week, and we cook and we wash dishes and we do all these different things. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You want a trophy? What you want, a cookie? You want an award for doing what you're supposed to do? But the moment we don't do it, that's when we hear it.
Listen, what you're saying is so hilarious because it reminds me of an episode of Blackish where Dre had loaded the dishwasher doctor, right? And he wanted, what's her name? I forget his wife's name. Rainbow. He wanted Bo to just acknowledge it. Did you see? And she was just like rolling her eyes like, it's the one thing you did domestic. You want all this credit. Meanwhile, I've done 1,000 things. I've saved lives because I'm a doctor. I'm raising a family of 4. So I think what happens
when you living by comparison,
when you're living by comparison, and I think, first of all, your point is valid and that is absolutely real. But I will say that, you know, even though you're working 50, 60 hours, and I don't know your situation, but there are other scenarios where the wife is working 50, 60 hours as well. And she has to come home and do things, and she does it to a certain standard and a certain level. And so it is frustrating for a wife. It's just like, even though you might be doing the dishes and you might take out the trash, but that's 2 things when there's 150,000 things to do. And so it can be frustrating when you don't do those 2 things well.
But let's just, and I agree with you 1,000%, but let's not, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but let's not romanticize wives. Let's not, wait a minute, hear my point. When I say romanticize, I mean, let's not create an ideal image of what all wives are, because there are many wives who are phenomenal. Okay. And they deserve every plaque, every trophy that you can create. But there's certain wives out there that are below bar. Okay. Yeah. They don't show up. They don't do the basics. They've tapped out mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. They're not good mothers. They're not good wives. And matter of fact, there's so many videos about, you know, do you want to be a wife or do you just want to be a married woman? And there's a major difference.
Facts. I talk
and
about
we
that.
say the same thing all the
Suitable
time
Helper
for husbands.
podcast. Yes,
like,
indeed.
There's a major difference between being a husband and a married man.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying? And I think that in today's society, unfortunately, so many things are so screwed up that a lot of women are looking to get married just for the benefits and perks. Just like maybe men traditionally have done, you know, I'm going to get married to this woman. She's going to support me and do all these different things. And I think there needs to be equal distribution, right? There needs to be a shared responsibility. And it happens when you establish a culture in your household that benefits the both of you.
I love it. I'm going to go to this last comment that we could wrap up the show because I think we could talk about this forever. Erica says, even if a man took on all the financial responsibilities in a home, it's crazy to expect the woman to be a machine. Even after coming home from a long day, the husband needs to give that woman a break. And that is 100% true. And we're talking about, the weaponized incompetence from a domestic perspective. And when it comes to that, I mean, there's no arguing that there is definitely a lean where women are taking on a lot more responsibilities and it is wearing women down. And we want to continue this conversation because we want to talk about how this is affecting us in the bedroom, how this affects us financially and also with parenting and all of that. I mean, actually, when we're talking about domestic, you can't really avoid the parenting part of it because, you know, we're the ones that mainly focus on that. But we want to get into this over the next couple of weeks. So we want y'all to join, tune in, share this with your friends and your family. Let's get a good dialogue going about this so that we can basically break this thing wide open and then come with some solutions. We didn't even come with any solutions. We didn't even get to no solutions yet. We just getting started.
Listen, guys, before we go, what we want to do is share with you the fact that there's so many couples who are reaching out to us for help to get transformation in their lives and in their marriage. And if you're that couple, we want you to reach out to us. We're going to close the show by playing a testimonial of a couple that came to us because they were in deep conflict and they needed a way out. They were dealing with the pain of infidelity. They got their marriage restored and they're thriving today. So watch this testimonial as we prepare to go. But listen, tune in tomorrow because the conversation will continue.
My name is Robert Kane from Lathrop, California. And we had the luxury and pleasure of having Mr. Asani come into our home and help us through our relationship troubles that we've been having. We spent many of hours with several different therapists that we had zero results with over the past year. And I feel like we've had a quantum leap in just a matter of 3 days that I didn't believe at first we would have this kind of impact. And I feel like we are years ahead, or therapy that would have taken years we achieved in 3 days.
My name is Kay Kane. We've been together for 34 years, and last couple of years we've been having trouble, just relationship. So we were just going through the many countless counseling, and we could not get the help that we needed it. And I just happened to see Mr. Hassani on TV, and I decided to call, get some help. So not just our relationship with this short 3 days from 0 to 10, but he really has been our mentor, life coach, I should say. And I cannot be grateful. It's like a God sent him to fly from Atlanta, Georgia to California. So this 3 days from now on has been so pleasure that everything he shared with us, taught us. And from today moving forward, he's gonna be with us rest of our life. And just feel so grateful that we met him. And thank you so much, so much. You are our mentor, coach, and I respect you, all your knowledge that you share with us, help us, guiding us. Thank you.